nothing worthwhile, the recognized symbol of excellence in crappy podcasting.
I play a dad. And I'm doing my darndest to keep that family happy on that trip and to have as much fun as I can as the kids find out.
I think you're all fucked in the head. We're 10 hours from the fucking fun park and you want to bail out. Well, I'll tell you something. This is no longer a vacation. It's a quest. It's a quest for fun. I'm going to have fun and you're going to have fun. We're all going to have so much fucking fun we'll need plastic surgery to remove our goddamn smiles. You'll be whistling Zippity-Doo-Dah out of your assholes. I gotta be crazy. I'm on a pilgrimage to see a moose. Praise Marty Moose! Holy shit!
Dad, you want to ask her something?
Don't touch!
I think it's a departure in the sense that it's no longer simply a cameo or a mugging your way through a role. It's really a character, and that I had to sustain. It wasn't difficult in the sense that it was certainly the most fun I've had making a movie. We shot here, for example, and other very beautiful locations all through Utah and Arizona and Colorado and parts of Jersey City. And I'd say it was the most fun I've ever had.
Well, are you gonna go for it?
Here?
For starters, sure. Why not? Don't you swim?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Sure, I took third in the state finals in my senior year, and yeah, I swim, heck. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm feeling completely at ease in the water. Yeah. I'm proficient in many strokes, and I dive. As a matter of fact, I could have been in the Olympics. Yeah, yeah, I'll be right there. Yeah. This is crazy.
I don't think that we, harp on too many areas that are heavily topical or political or sociological. Basically, the family itself is a unit in this film and somehow manages to stay that way. It's through the fault of the character I play, Clark Griswolds, through my own ineptitude, that we end up in certain areas that we didn't mean to, and everything that can go wrong in this country does go wrong.
Take a last look, kids. At one of man's most curious creations. Built to stand the test of time and the elements, war, you name it. A thing of glory for 1,000,000 future generations to see. And we were here.
There's no seamy side of family life in this.
Not at all.
Really, but there is a.
But you're showing
there is a
America.
seamy side to America that we do show here and there. There's a little to it in the cousins we visit. A great deal of poverty there, and there are one or two places.
The rip-off and the
capitalistic
yes.
rip-off places. Yeah.
Well, how old are you, little one?
She was born without a tongue, Clark. But don't you worry about her. She whistles like a bird and eats like a horse.
Oh.
I don't know why they call this stuff hamburger helper. It does just fine by itself, huh? I like it better than tuna helper myself. Don't you, Clark? No, I got laid off when they closed that asbestos factory. Now, wouldn't you know it, the Army cuts my disability pension because they said that the plate in my head wasn't big enough. Well, I didn't want to ask you, Clark, but could you maybe spare a little, extra cash?
Sure, Eddie. How much you need?
I fetch $2,000.
What are you looking at?
Oh, the silent majesty of a winter's morn, clean, cool chill of the holiday air, and an asshole in his bathrobe emptying a chemical toilet into my sewer.
Shitter was full!
Ah, yeah. You checked our shitters, honey?
Clark, please.
Eddie, thanks for buying me dinner.
Best $1.49 buffet in town, Clark. Clark, this is all you can eat. We only need one plate.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I'm going steady, and I French kiss.
So everybody does that.
Yeah, but Daddy says I'm the best at it.
It's a hopeful film. It's one that shows that in the end, the family unit is what counts.
Where do you think you're going? Nobody's leaving. Nobody's walking out on this fun, old-fashioned family Christmas. No, we're all in this together. This is a full-blown, four-alarm holiday emergency here. We're gonna press on, and we're gonna have the happiest Christmas since Bing Crosby tap danced with Danny fucking Kaye. And when Santa squeezes his fat white ass down that chimney tonight, he's gonna find the jolliest bunch of assholes this side of the nut house. You're goofy. Don't piss me off, Art.
Clark, it's over.
Not according to Santa's watch, it isn't.
Now, come on, son.
Stay out of this, Dad.
Clark, I think it's best if everyone just goes home before things get worse.
Worse? How could they get any worse? Take a look around you, Ellen. We're at the threshold of hell.
There is a close line between the reality, what you really see, a documentative approach, and what is called entertaining, you know.
Pardon me. I wonder if you could tell me how to get back on the expressway.
Hey, fuck your mama.
Thank you very much. Say, excuse me, Holmes? Aha. What it is, bro? We're from out of town.
No shit. Yeah, listen, I'd really appreciate it if you could give me directions back onto the expressway.
What, for free?
Sure.
$5.
I'm not going to give you $5 for directions.
I think that's fair, Clark.
Okay, here's 10.
There you go.
Keep the change.
Okay. Now, you see which way you're pointing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's good, because you see that place?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. You see where it say rib tip?
Rib tips.
Mm-hmm. Well, fuck that. You don't want to go that way.
What if these guys know the Commodores?
You're going to go all the way down about half a block, and you'll see a Torino with no wheels on it. Now, inside that Torino is my cousin, Jackie. Now, you tell him you my boy and that you lost, and he'll make sure you get the way you're going, because you don't want to know from me, man. This ain't even my neighborhood. I'm from the west side of Chicago, here on vacation.
Thanks a lot. You've been a great help.
We know what's funny, and we know that you have to have a relaxed atmosphere in order to create that. And somehow the luck was on our side, and everything went well.
Audrey, when they close the road, they put up big signs, like this one.
I think I broke my nose. I stabbed my brain. I just got my period.
Better check under the hood.
Sparky, why don't you turn off the TV and come to bed?
Okay, honey.
Well, up and at 'em. We're here.
Fire up the barbecue, put on your SPF, because it is vacation time. We are America's #1 bi-coastal podcast featuring two annoying Jews. We report, you decide. We are nothing worthwhile on the West Coast in the now brutally hot city of Phoenix, Arizona. I am your host and moderator, Evan Moody. On the East Coast, it is our little sliver of sunshine in the great city of Coral Springs, Florida. He is Andrew Gruthius. Groo, how the hell are you, my friend?
I'm fine. It's really not that hot. It's really not that hot here. I mean, it's very comfortable. It's even a little chilly. I mean, I do have the air conditioning on to 62, so. But yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful here.
Are you the guy that when you sleep too, you have the like the tower fan 1 inch from your face blowing?
Yeah, I got the AC on to 62. I got two fans, one blowing at me straight, the other coming in from the side, and I still sweat my ass off.
what does your FPL bill look like? Oh my lord!
Well,
you pay that like in weekly installments.
Let's put it this way. The rent is going to be a little bit late this month. let's put it that way. But
it's one of those when you go, "Hello, Dad." Yeah, a little bit of an issue.
Well,
all right. Well,
that happens every day.
Yeah. Well, glad everything's going pretty well, and it's not too burning hot out here in Phoenix. Woo! Easily topping 109, 110. Every day. If I go for a morning jog, I'm almost like delirious by the time I get home. I'm almost like it
hallucinating.
Yeah, like heat burn. Yeah, like heat exhaustion, and right into an IV. All right.
Yeah, is that when you called me? Is that when you called me and said that Richard Simmons was on the Howard Stern show? You were like hallucinating.
Yes, literally.
You're like, this might be the heat stroke, but I think Richard Simmons is live in studio right now. I'm like, Evan, that's from 1986, but
yeah. Well, you know how the Stern show does it. They're always very secretive about when they go on their vacations.
That's true.
More often than not, you're getting a show in the can versus a live one.
Yeah.
All right, Groo, before we get to today's topic at hand, let's scale back to our last podcast. It was our take on Phil Collins, everyone's favorite rock drummer turned solo artist extraordinaire. We tried, albeit unsuccessfully, to sing Against All Odds karaoke style.
Did we really try? I'm not sure. I think we hammed it up a little bit, but.
Yeah, that was embarrassing. We discussed Phil Collins' youth and his early foray into drumming, music, and acting. Phil replaces Peter as the lead singer of the prog rock powerhouse Genesis. Phil Collins' classic debut album, Face Value. Phil's meteoric rise as a solo performer. His departure from Genesis in 1997. Health problems leading to his eventual decline. But now we have some glimmers of hope as Phil has returned to the concert stage as a solo act, and perhaps one last go-around with Genesis. Groo, let me throw it to you. Final thoughts on our last podcast, Phil Collins.
I just, I loved it because I've actually been, since we did that podcast, I've been listening to a lot of Phil Collins solo work. Especially on Apple Music that I have, they have all of those remastered albums with all those live tracks and all that stuff. So this guy, I mean, I can't think of somebody who, like I said last time, that just proves that the body of work that this guy has, both with Genesis and solo, is unmatched. I just think there's, like John Bon Jovi has Bon Jovi, and he's got a couple little solo projects, Blaze of Glory, stuff like that, but. That brings us to our next thing. But Phil Collins, he could sell out arenas or stadiums as Phil Collins or Genesis, and the fact that we got 4.5 hours on him proves that. So, and I got great feedback from it too.
Yeah, first of all, I agree with you. The reissues are amazing. They're on Apple Music. I'm sure they're on Spotify and all those music platforms. The live tracks. There are even some really cool album cuts that were not major radio hits.
Yeah,
I agree with everything you say. Yet before we toss it to the next deal, he still is going to always be seen, or at least now, he's still seen as that level down from that classic rock colleague. And I know we talked about it before, but I mean, you and I think we look at him in sort of awestruck. He's a drummer, he's a singer, he's a lead guy of a major band, yet I think even, I don't know, he always will be seen kind of a cut below.
Maybe it's because he has a formula and he sticks to it, and when he doesn't stick to it, it's considered a failure, or it's considered, like it's kind. Would you say he's on the same level as a Rod Stewart?
Absolutely.
Okay, I mean like Rod Stewart is a little bit lower than like Rod Stewart is not a I don't know.
Well, listen, I'm not a
Rod Stewart's
guy.
not a Paul McCartney, just like Phil Collins is not a Paul McCartney. They're not at that level.
I would say Phil Collins' solo output, at least on face value, is a lot more expansive than Rod Stewart. That's just my take on it.
But like Rod Stewart started doing like the Standards albums and stuff like that, and then Phil Collins does the 60s, like all that stuff. Like, so I think that critically, he's looked at a lot of his stuff might be kind of fluff. Like even the stuff that we talk about, like Saving the World, that kind of stuff. Like, he delves into that maybe a little too much, but we don't care because we love it anyway. It's like it's sharp Wisconsin cheddar. It's bad for you, but it tastes great. But you're right. He's so damn talented. He really is.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back on some of those, like the No Jacket Required tour, I mean, he's playing almost every instrument. He's drumming, he's singing, a lot of fun. So, Andrew, you did mention a comparison with John Bon Jovi, so let's get to it. Best of actually, nothing worthwhile. Breaking news.
Oops.
Breaking news.
Wait, what?
Breaking news.
Why is it not working?
we had it so planned.
It's right. There's no reason for it not to work. Hold on. Yeah, that's working. So why isn't this? Oh boy. No, we got hold on. All right, I swear I think we got it this time. So, Evan, if you please.
Nothing worthwhile. Breaking news.
Yay!
Yeah, we got it.
Woo!
Our listeners know the dulcet tones of Whitney Houston mean only one thing. We do have nothing worthwhile breaking news. Tomorrow, Sunday, June 7th, Groo and myself will be on the Best of the Worst podcast. We'll be breaking down Bon Jovi with Ryan Rabalkin and the guys. And actually, Ryan did a good job. We got like emails. It was like homework assignments. It was like, Moody, you cover this. Groo, you cover this. And I got my notes ready to go. Just any quick thoughts on Best of the Worst tomorrow, Bon Jovi, Ryan, and the guys?
I can't wait to collaborate. That's to me that's like the most fun when we can combine our formats, and I'm looking forward to talking about these the songs that I was given were great, and I'm like re-listening to them and being like, wow, this is much better than I remember, or in some cases, this is much, much worse than I remember. Oh, excuse me.
Actually, my thoughts as well. I went back and I got my assignment of songs, and I was like, ooh, this is great. Or I was like, oh, wow, this has not aged well at all.
Yeah, I was like listening to it. I was like, man, I remember it like yesterday, cruising down Jericho Turnpike to this song, blasting it out the windows, and which was a mistake because everyone knew it was me. So when I turned into the Tender Trap parking lot, they knew who it was right away. You Long Islanders will know what that means. But I'm really excited about going on with Ryan and the guys. They do a great job, and it's going to be fun.
It'll be nice. I think, like with Nothing Worthwhile, it's like a closed society. It's almost like actually venturing out into the real world of podcasting.
Oh, we are. We're completely a cult. Completely.
That was a slight joke, but actually, Ryan reached out to us. I've enjoyed. I actually listened to his Unpleasant Facts about John Lennon podcast.
I heard that too. That was really interesting. Yeah,
it was an interesting listen, and I think there's a similar vein how he presents his material to us. Informative but light and fun, and looking forward to it. And tomorrow, June 7th, Best of the Worst, Nothing Worthwhile.
Looking forward.
Two great taste sensations coming together.
It's like Pepsi and Coke combining.
Yeah, chocolate and peanut butter. I don't know, but anyway. All right, Groo. Let's get to this week's topic. It is summertime. It is time for the American families, at least in theory, to take that idyllic summer vacation. Obviously, COVID has put a little wrench into those plans, but what movie franchise skewered the notion of the great American family vacation more than the Vacation franchise films? There was National Lampoon's Vacation in 1983, National Lampoon's European Vacation in 1985, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation in 1989, Vegas Vacation in 1997, and of course the reboot Vacation in 2015. Groo, there's been some other media featuring spin-offs from the Vacation franchise, but for time and clarity's sake, we'll focus on the movies. I guess the first thing before we tip it off, and we talked about this off air, I don't know, when you pitched this idea to me, I never really thought of Vacation as a franchise of movies, yet it is. Why did I not think that? Or why is there maybe not this opinion of the Vacation films as a standalone franchise?
Well, because I think either we talked about this last week or we talked about it off the air. Each movie kind of stands on its own and can really exist without the others. Starting with the fact that there are different kids in all of them.
Well, let's get to it. Let me interrupt.
Okay, well,
here.
no, but I just want to finish the thought because
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's like the franchises today. It's like one after the other. These were a few years apart, and they were different adventures. So it's like I know people look at like the Indiana Jones franchise, that's completely different adventures. One is actually a prequel, but this one, the tone of each one is very different. The style, because there were, I think, 4 movies, actually 5 if you count the reboot, 5 different directors, different writers. So when, franchises these days, each of those Batman movies was directed by the same person and written by the same person. The Marvel movies it's the same team working on them. Vacation doesn't really have that. So maybe that's the reason. That's my theory anyway.
Do you think any having to do as a comedy versus maybe like sci-fi action? Sci-fi sort of builds a universe and sort of lends itself to maybe. Do you think just being a comedy franchise, maybe that has something to do with it?
Maybe. I mean, you can also look at the Hangover movies, but that's basically just them repeating the same story, over and over again. No disrespect intended to the Hangovers, but they're considered a franchise. But the same guy directed and wrote all 3 of them. I do think that makes a difference. I really do. Star Wars is a franchise. It's all it's the first 6 are all Lucas, and then the new ones had a very different feel to them because they were different creators.
Well, Groo, since you mentioned it, let's get right into. You mentioned even the casting. The notion of recasting Rusty and Audrey Griswold with each movie. What did you think about that?
It didn't make sense to me because why not have them? I don't know. It's possible. I think they've said that each time they come back to do a vacation movie, the kids have grown too much. But what's wrong with taking your college-aged kids on vacation? You know,
Right.
that there's plenty of room for comedy there. A family vacation is still a family vacation, but for whatever reason, they wanted to keep them basically the same age for 83 to 97. That's a long time. But they could have, Anthony Michael Hall, once Vacation hit, and then you had like the Breakfast Club and the other ones, like he was a big, and Saturday Night Live, by the time European Vacation came out, he was a star. Maybe they just couldn't get him. That's possible.
That is a good point. We'll talk about that, but I think I agree. Anthony Michael Hall was the quintessential 80s young teen actor, and recasting those roles in European Vacation, which I'm already spoiling my notes, but I thought that was a big, big miss from the first to second movie.
Yes,
Real big.
And second to third.
Real big.
And third to fourth. But if you notice, in each of the movies, the kids are played completely differently. They are different people. And maybe that contributes to the fact that, it's not looked at as like that franchise thing. That's a big deal, because the kids play a huge part in these movies.
All right, Groo. Let's break down the first and probably universally considered the best. Groo, I'm going to run through a couple of notes. Feel free to interrupt us as necessary. National Lampoon's Vacation is a 1983 American road comedy film directed by Harold Ramis and starring Chevy Chase, Beverly D'Angelo, Imogene Coca, a special appearance by John Candy, and introducing one Christy Brinkley.
Boing.
Screenplay was written by John Hughes based on his short story Vacation 58, which appeared in the magazine National Lampoon. Groo, road comedy films, why have they have a special place sort of in Hollywood lore? I mean, it seems like you want to make a comedy, get a couple people in a car, and hijinks ensue.
Because the hijinks are built in. What is there on the road besides possible disaster? There's so many different possibilities. If you're driving across country, the different kinds of places you're going to go to, culture clashes, things like that, and that is definitely a theme throughout the first Vacation. Look, I mean, there are a bunch of road when they work, they're incredible. But the key to this one is that you never lose the characters. The events that happen are not bigger than the characters. That's where some of these movies make mistakes, but not this one.
Film was a box office hit, Groo, earned more than $60 million in the U.S. with an estimated budget of only $15 million. Received pretty much overall positive reviews from the critics. In 2000, the readers of Total Film voted National Lampoon's Vacation as the 46th greatest comedy film of all time. Let's kick to it.
That's it?
46th, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Didn't I have it as number one on my my list?
Well, it was in my top 10 movie podcast. Well, I mean, I'll throw it to you. Where do you see Vacation in terms of American comedy films?
Well, to me, I think it was number one on my list as the funniest movie I've ever seen. I mean, this movie makes me laugh as hard and as often as any other movie I've ever seen. But you mentioned it. Look at the people involved. Okay, it's 1983. All right, you've got Chevy Chase and Harold Ramis coming off of Caddyshack. All right, and Saturday Night Live and SCTV. You've got John Candy in there, who's more than just a cameo. You've got Imogene Coca, who's a comedy legend and kills it in that movie as Aunt Edna. You've got Randy Quaid, who was an Academy Award nominated actor by that point. You've got even Miriam Flynn, who plays his wife, is a very familiar character actress. And you've also got the guy who plays Roy Wally, Eddie Bracken, was like a vaudeville star. Familiar to everybody. So you've got, and John Hughes writing the script. Look at that. Imagine that talent lineup today. That's a Hall of Fame movie right there, and that's also a $300 million budget right there. But at the time, they weren't as well known, but the talent was as hot as it ever was. And that's without, the talents of Beverly D'Angelo, who really kind of holds the movie together in a lot of ways. Christy Brinkley, actually, what could have been a complete throwaway thing, just a hot girl in a Ferrari, she makes the most of it, and she actually proved herself a decent actress. She really sold it well.
Yeah.
So think of just the talent alone, just propels it, and each of them were at the pinnacle of their careers as far as quality.
Not only that, you've even got some fairly big names in very small roles, probably at the early part of their career. Brian Doyle Murray, James Keach, Eugene Levy,
God,
and even a very young Jane Krakowski as cousin Vicky. Yeah. So
my goodness,
you got
and there's somebody else, The kid, I forgot his name. No, there's some people whose names you don't know, but everybody knows their face. If you look at that kid, Cousin Eddie's kid, Dale, he was like the go-to TV sitcom bully at the time.
Yeah,
he was the William Zabka before William Zabka, and then he just disappeared. But they really their casting. I mean, if there was an Academy Award for casting, look no further than National Lampoon's Vacation. Every role, and even the and I know we're going off on a tangent here, but the guy who's at the Dodge City bar that they go to, that welcome to the Long Branch. No fighting, no cussing, no gunslinging. That was, I forgot his first name, but that's Richard Dreyfuss's younger brother.
Oh, very interesting.
I mean, that's
yes. Come on,
it's still a name. It's still a yeah. Marshall. It's still a name. It's not the Dreyfuss, but it's a Dreyfuss. So they really did their work on this one, and it paid off in spades. It really did.
Clark Griswold, wanting to spend more time with his wife Ellen and children Rusty and Audrey, decides to lead the family on a cross-country expedition from their Chicago suburbs to Southern California amusement park, Wally World, billed as America's favorite family fun park. Ellen wants to fly, but Clark insists on driving so he can bond with his family. Of course, he orders a new car in preparation for the trip, and he's got his eye on something really nice, but he's sort of forced to accept the Wagon Queen Family Truckster, an ugly, outsized station wagon, as his second-generation Vista Cruiser he brought to trade-in has already been hauled away and crushed.
That's a great scene.
During the family's travels, of course, Groo, they experienced numerous mishaps, such as being tagged by vandals in East St. Louis. Clark is tantalized, as Groo mentioned earlier, on numerous occasions by a beautiful young Christy Brinkley, who is driving a flashy red Ferrari. They stop in Coolidge, Kansas to visit Ellen's cousin Catherine and her husband Eddie. Of course, classic scenes who foist cranky Aunt Edna and her mean dog Dinky. Dinky on the Griswolds.
Poor Dinky.
And they asked them to drop off. They drop off Aunt Edna and Dinky at her son's Norman's home in Phoenix, Arizona. Of course,
you forgot. They literally drop her there.
Well, we're going to get to it.
We're going to get to that. Okay.
Yeah, they stop at a decrepit and dirty campground in South Fork, Colorado. Clark forgets to untie Dinky's leash from the bumper. And, of course, we have the amazing scene where when he's pulled over by a police officer, he gets accused of animal cruelty as the dog was tied to the back bumper of the car the whole time. Let's see. Edna learns of her dog's death and becomes more irate with Clark. Ellen loses her bag, which had her credit cards, forcing Clark to cash a check for future spending.
And her diaphragm.
While Ellen and Clark argue during a drive between Utah and Arizona, they crash and become stranded in the desert near Monument Valley. Clark and Rusty have a very funny bonding experience, explaining why he wants to take this vacation. The scene with them drinking the beer is a Moody favorite as well.
That's a great scene.
After setting off alone in the desert to look for help, again, another very funny scene I love. Does he put his jeans on his head?
Yes.
I forget. He puts his jeans on his head.
Literally
rolls
taking
up
off.
sleeve.
He's literally taking off everything, like just to be less covered. He even takes off his watch and throws it away, just so his wrist will be that much, cooler. Like, it's really funny.
Clark eventually reunites with his family, who have been rescued and taken to a local mechanic. The mechanic, of course, takes Clark's remaining cash, only to render the car barely operational. Frustrated, they stop at the Grand Canyon. Another very funny scene where Clark is unable to convince the hotel clerk to cash a personal check because his credit card was reportedly stolen. Of course, he bangs his fist in anger, and the
cash register.
The cash register shoots open. Of course, Clark grabs all the cash and leaves the check behind. Leaving, they find out that Aunt Edna has died in her sleep. They tie her corpse to the roof of the car. They wrap her in a tarp. When they reach Norman's home, they discover he's out of town, so they leave Edna's body by the back door with a note. They do a quick small memorial for her, and off they go. Ellen and the children want to go back home, Groo, but Clark, damn it, he's obsessed now in reaching Wally World, so they forge on. After an argument with Ellen, Clark eventually meets the mysterious Ferrari-driving blonde beauty at the hotel and goes skinny dipping with her in the pool. They're discovered by the family before anything intimate happens. Ellen forgives Clark, and of course now they go skinny dipping themselves. Always thought that she let Clark off the hook just a little too quickly after he goes, skinny dipping in the pool with the scantily clad Christy Brinkley.
Perhaps, but he didn't do anything. But I can see, but look, their conversation after that scene was interesting. Like he said, "Listen, we're all going crazy right now, but this is where my heart is." Trying to be trying to be deep for a moment, and then it's back to holding up you'll get to it. So.
Well, despite the family's misfortunes, they finally arrive at Wally World the next day, only to discover that the park is closed for the next 2 weeks for repairs. Clark essentially slips into madness, and realizing that all of his efforts have been for nothing, he goes out and buys a very realistic-looking BB gun, and he demands that park security guard Russ Lasky, a.k.a. John Candy, takes them through Wally World. Ellen and the kids follow, attempting to placate Clark. They go on all the rides. Very, very funny stuff. An LAPD SWAT team arrives, along with park owner Roy Wally. Roy understands Clark's impassioned speech, longing to achieve that perfect vacation. Bringing along memories of his own family vacation headaches, he decides not to file criminal charges against the Griswolds and lets the family, along with the LAPD SWAT team, enjoy the park as his guests. Groo, I've said a lot, essentially summarizing the plot of the first vacation movie. Thoughts?
Well, it's almost like they took every situation possible and said, okay, where can we go with this? And nothing doesn't work. That's one of the charms about this movie. Everything works from the very opening scene where with Eugene Levy and the wrong car and the getting the thing crushed to him the night before with the computer and Rusty trying to eat the family truckster on the computer. Even that's funny because it's so real. Like this family, that's why the first vacation is so great. The chemistry between the family makes you really believe this is a real this is a real true American Chicago family, and they just all play it so well. But I do want to talk about how incredible, like if this movie were made today, it couldn't be, because there is so much stuff in it that would be deemed racist, sexist, offensive. I mean, if you go through it, I mean, from the very first scene, remember the car mechanic, Davenport. Do you remember that? He's basically treating it like it's like Porterhouse from Caddyshack. It's like the same thing. Like he's got his dumb African American worker and that's the way the script sort of treats him, and it's funny then. It wouldn't be funny now, but it's funny then. I don't know why. It's very strange. But think about, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but think about the scenes with Cousin Eddie and his family. How incredibly offensive that stuff is. They have in the span of like 3 minutes, they have an incest joke. A pedophile joke with them sitting on the swing, what do you call those? The seesaw. She's like, I French kiss, so everybody does, but Daddy says I'm great at it. And then the next scene where the kid is telling Rusty how he got taught to jack off by a guy. Like I mean, these things are so taboo and so and yet they're tossed off.
Are you referring to the Bop
Your Baloney? Yes. But he says,
baloney.
but the way he says, he's like, this guy taught me something real neat last year. You ever bop your baloney? I mean, that's pure pedophilia right there. Plus the Midwest cousin kind of thing that they're playing, the redneck kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But it works for the movie, and it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But today you'd have 25 different special interest groups picketing that kind of stuff.
Well, even the fish out of water scene where they're in St. Louis with
yes,
black folks.
That's true. That is complete.
Trying to get direction.
Does it get more racist than that? The guys are actually. Go ahead.
I don't know if. Well, I mean, I love racial humor and I love clever humor, picking sort of lovingly at everybody's differences. I mean. I guess that's progress. It's not progress for me, and I understand that things evolve and things change. But it's sort of a shame because there is a truth, an extent of truth to what you're saying, and I'm saddens me that you're probably right that a movie like this today could not be made with some sharp satire in it. I agree. Maybe some of the stuff may have to be altered or toned down, but. Ultimately, I think you're right. I don't think Vacation would get made today. Certainly not in this format.
And even in the St. Louis part, that's what's great about great comedy. Like if you look at that scene, okay, today the way movies are made, all right, all eyes have to focus on the action of the scene. So if that movie were made today, you'd see the guy giving directions to Chevy-Chase, and they would basically be the only two people in the scene. But Harold Ramis and the writers knew that they needed to, sprinkle it with a lot of other details, like the kid sitting in the back with that racist comment. Wonder if these guys know the Commodores. They take the time to shoot that. They have Beverly D'Angelo sitting there getting increasingly frightened. They have the guy's friends taking the hubcaps and off the car and spray painting it with the graffiti and all that stuff. And that's stuff that I didn't even really notice until later on, because we're so fixated on Clark and.
Okay, but what are you telling me right now? So you notice it, and what do you feel bad because you laughed at it?
No, I don't. I don't feel bad at all. It's just too bad. It's too bad that kind of stuff wouldn't fly today, because it is funny and it's not meant to offend. It's meant to make people laugh.
It's done. Yeah,
it's done so lovingly,
but it's.
It is done lovingly.
I mean,
it is done lovingly.
I agree, but I don't.
Even the pimp. But a lot. It's a much more sensitive time now. It has been for a while, really. If you look at if we had to say if this movie has aged well on a PC level, the answer is hell no. But it's still
okay. Has it aged well? Has it aged well on a comedy level?
As far as probably not.
Come on,
probably not.
Not?
I'll tell you why. Because, and this is my opinion, I don't know. If
Wait. Hold on. I need to interject one point.
Go ahead.
It was on my top 10, and you basically just said 10 minutes ago it was your number one comedy of all time.
Yes.
And you're saying, I could understand the PC stuff. That's one topic. But the actual comedic material has not, you're looking at it from a lens from when we were 13, 14, 15 from the first one, and now we're older, but you're not saying you don't watch it and still get some yucks?
I do. But you're asking if it's aged well, and my answer is no. Because
I'm asking your opinion.
My opinion is that
not CNN.
My opinion is that funny is funny. If it was funny yesterday, it's funny today. But here's the thing: if you look at the difference, and I'm sure we'll get to it, but if you look at the difference between most people, most younger people younger than us, who've seen many of these movies, their favorite is usually Christmas Vacation. Because it's more broad, it's more slapsticky, it's less cerebral comedy and more just in your face, pratfalls, stuff like that. And that's the kind of comedy that, like Hangover style comedy, that's the kind of comedy that today's audiences are more into. Like if you showed a teenager National Lampoon's Vacation, half the stuff that would knock us on our ass laughing hysterically, they wouldn't see the joke. Because they don't see that far into it. Yes, they're going to laugh when the dead body is on the roof. Yes, they're going to laugh when he's sleeping. But those are the big, giant set piece comic moments. I'm talking about the stuff. Like to me, one of the biggest laughs in the movie is when it was in the opening package when Eddie says, "Can you spare a little extra cash?" He's like, "Sure." Eddie's all cocky. He's like, "Yeah, I got money. Yeah, whatever you need." He reaches into his wallet. And then he's like, "How much do you need, buddy?" And then he goes, "About $52,000. And then Chevy, without changing his facial expression, just starts taking the money out that he pulled out and starts just casually putting it back into the wallet, knowing that the $40 or $50 he's got in there is not going to cover this. To me, that's one of the funniest moments in the movie. People will not pick up on that. Younger people who are used to such in-your-face style comedy.
All right. You said a lot. I'm going to respond.
Okay, go ahead.
You're surmising. I know you work with younger people as a teacher. So do I. I mean, unless you've done focus groups. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I think that you're talking about two different issues. The PC stuff, well, that's unfortunate. But I watched this movie about a month ago, and I still had a lot of laugh out loud moments. So to me, I think that the comedy is aged well, and I think the first one is an American comedy classic.
It is, by far.
All right. Well, let's get to a couple of things, Groo. Some interesting notes for the film. Wally World Theme Park is represented by Santa Anita Park in Arcadia, California, and Six Flags Magic Mountain in Valencia, California. So Wally World was
the
filmed
parking
at two
lot.
theme parks.
I actually know about this. The parking lot
Go ahead.
is Santa Anita.
Yes.
And the actual amusement park is Magic Mountain. I've been to both places, by the way.
Do you know the names of the two roller coasters that were filmed to recreate the Wally World roller coaster scene?
I know their names in the movie. I don't know if they're the same names in real life, even though I've been there. There was the Screamy Mimi or whatever it was, the Loop de Loop or whatever he called it. But I don't know. I don't remember their names in real life. I haven't been to Magic Mountain in 20 years. So
yeah. So the notes I have is they filmed two coasters, La Revolucion, which could be recognized by the vertical loop, and Colossus, which is now known as Twisted Colossus, the double-track wooden roller coaster.
That was the first one that they went on.
The iconic Wagon Queen Family Truckster was actually created specifically for the film.
Mm-hmm.
It was based on the 1979 Ford LTD Country Squire station wagon. This car was specifically created to lampoon American, station wagons in the late 70s. It had the pale avocado metallic green paint.
Metallic P. Remember that's what Eugene Levy called it? He's like... Chevy's Clark is like, "I ordered the Antarctic Blue Super Sports Wagon." He's like, "You didn't order the Metallic P?" "No, Metallic P. No, Antarctic Blue." Yeah, whatever. Like, what a great color, Metallic P.
Yeah, it had extensive imitation wood paneling decals, 8 headlights, a grill area largely covered by bodywork with only 2 small openings close to the bumper, and if you remember, an oddly placed fuel filter and an airbag made from a trash can liner. Did they even have airbags back? I guess they did have airbags back then. I did.
I'd love to ask somebody if that's what they were like. Maybe they were kind of like that. Maybe not as...
I don't remember.
Well, I don't remember either, but that'd be an interesting question. They're certainly not. They certainly weren't as advanced as they are now.
Sure, that is for sure.
But it still played for great laughs.
Groo, how are the reviews for Vacation? Rotten Tomatoes has the film holding at a 93% rating based on 43 reviews. The site's consensus reads, blessed by a brilliantly befuddled star turn from chevy-chase, National Lampoon's Vacation is one of the more consistent and thoroughly quotable screwball comedies of the 80s. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of C+ on an A+ to F scale. The company's founder said in 2016, I loved it. I couldn't figure out for anything why more people didn't love this movie. Janet Maslin of the New York Times gave the film a positive review, saying, National Lampoon's Vacation, which is more controlled than any other Lampoon movie has been, is careful not to stray too far away from its target. The result is a confident humor and throwaway style that helps sustain the laughs, of which there are quite a few. American Variety called the film an enjoyable trip through familiar comedy landscapes and praised director Harold Ramis for populating the film with a host of well-known comedic performances in passing parts. Groo, to me, about as perfect as an 80s comedy can get. Great casting, great sight gags, memorable but restrained performance from Chevy Chase. Leads the way as we have seen it before and have seen it since. The well-meaning dad who just screws it up along the way. I love it. To me, it's a Moody classic. Let's toss it over to our in-house critic, Groo. Final thoughts on the first, and I think the best, National Lampoon's Vacation.
Agree with everything you said. I still think it's my number one comedy ever, it does not. Everything works. It's a perfect movie to me. But what you said about the critical response makes perfect sense, and I'll tell you why. What you said the critics, like on the Rotten Tomatoes thing, the critics have like a 90% something positive, right? But the CinemaScore is like C+.
Yes.
That's low for a movie like this. But the reason is because the critics grade is based on the reviews at the time. Who's doing CinemaScore? CinemaScore is audiences. I'm not sitting there and writing reviews of movies I've seen 30 years ago. Kids are on that thing, or younger people are on that thing, talking about these things. Not you and me, not people who were adults at the time. They're not sitting there looking for sites on the computer where they can write movie reviews. It doesn't work that way. So, like I said, today's younger audience doesn't have the appreciation for this movie. In fact, they would probably like the reboot better because it's more gross, and they like that kind of gross humor. So, but to answer that guy's question, people did love it. It's just looking at it from today's angle, you don't hear much about it because it's just not on. I don't know. It's not on the radar, as it were. Maybe if it did, maybe if they did approach it like a franchise, maybe it would be, but they chose not to go that route.
You know, you take a breath, and I'm about to, and then you always do that. Maybe you go. I go. Oh, all right. So let me 2 points.
Well, maybe no. Go.
The 2 points. You don't think though that typically it's flipped? Don't you think usually audience goers like movies better than the critics? The critics can be a little hoity-toity, and don't we usually see that more often than not?
Yes, but and the same thing happened then. I remember when the movie. I was very interested at a young age at reviews of movies. So you know me, I've always been a movie fan, and I love reading really good reviewers. Okay. I loved reading like Roger Ebert's reviews. Like that was my benchmark. If Ebert liked it, then there's credibility there. So critics didn't love it when it came out. A lot of them were like that. The Variety review said it's funny, but it's familiar. it's a decent comedy that goes through familiar comedy landscapes or whatever. That was the general consensus at the time. As the movie has grown and spawned the sequels, and there's a new appreciation for the original, and it definitely has moved up over time. But just like so many other classics, when they first come out, they're not huge hits, and they're not loved by critics or audiences. People fall in love with them over time. I think this one is a small exception to that rule. I think it was regarded as a good movie at the time. It's become a classic.
Groo, you mentioned about being a hit. You wouldn't consider making $60 million back in '83 with a budget of 15?
In '83, $60 million is a big hit. Yeah. I would.
Okay. Now here, let me ask you one other question. You name Vacation, and I know this is off the top of your head, as your number one comedy. Just curious, what's your number two?
I think the first few were like we did a podcast on it. I think
No.
Didn't we?
What is your number two comedy of all time?
I'm just curious. I think it was Young Frankenstein.
Okay.
I think it was Young Frankenstein, and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was up there.
I just asked you for number two.
Okay. I think it was Young Frankenstein.
I'm surprised you didn't say Shecky Mimmelstein, 1961.
It was the Jerry Lewis, The Day the Clown Cried, or whatever. That Holocaust.
Hello, lady. Hello, lady.
whatever that debacle was called.
Yeah, I think there's like some minor stuff about it on YouTube. I mean, the only one who really brings it up is Howard used to bring it up back in the day.
Yeah.
Nothing like a Nazi clown comedy to warm the cockles of your heart.
Well, they did kind of pull one off in the late '90s. A movie called Life is Beautiful. Did you ever see that?
Is that with like Roberto Benigni?
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. It's incredible.
Okay,
but anyway,
we'll save that for the Roberto Benigni podcast in January of 2028.
Yeah, that'll be like
anyway,
7 minutes long.
Not with us. We got 2 hours plus.
With the clip package, it'll be 7 minutes.
Right, and then the bonus podcast.
I highly recommend you check that out. It's excellent.
Excellent. European Vacation is a 1985 American comedy film directed by Amy Heckerling and written by John Hughes, though he was given a writing credit due to leftover material from the first Vacation not being used. It's also written a writing credit to Robert Klein, not Robert Klein, but Robert Klein. Mm-hmm. This is the second film in the National-Lampoon's Vacation film series, starring Chevy-Chase, Beverly D'Angelo, Dana Hill, Jason Lively, Victor Lanoux, and Eric Idle. Groo, how did European Vacation do at the box office? It opened July 26, 1985.
Let me try and guess.
Go ahead.
I remember I saw it on a camp trip.
What was its total gross in the U.S.?
I'm guessing $44 million.
You are very, very, very adept at this, Groo. You're close. It raked in about $50 million in '85.
Okay.
So since we talked about it before, Groo, 1985, I don't have the budget.
Do you know what movie it opened up against? Like literally, like the day of?
I don't have those notes.
When you think of 1985, what do you think of?
I'm probably thinking like a Schwarzenegger, like a Terminator or something like that, or an action movie.
Original Back to the Future.
Oh, Back to the Future?
Yeah.
Original or number two?
Original.
Okay.
I remember because because on the trip that was our choice. You could see European Vacation or Back to the Future, and of course, me as a huge Vacation fan, I was like the only one who went to see European Vacation. Everyone went to see Back to the Future, but
well, let me ask you. Memories aside, I did ask you earlier, 85, $50 million, 1985, $50 million gross. I don't have the budget. European Vacation,
definitely a low
success?
budget. Yes, big success. Definitely a low budget. You could tell that the budget wasn't there. There's a lot of green screen stuff. There's a lot of stuff that
oh my God.
There is.
I can't wait to I'm saying I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah,
I got a lot of feelings about this movie.
Yeah,
what are you yelling at me for?
Oh, I thought you were like, what are you talking about? Like one of those. No, there's it was definitely made on the cheap, without a doubt.
Well, let's go over the.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I want to go over the plot because I got a lot of thoughts on this movie.
Okay.
Groo, what is the plot of European Vacation, you ask? Well, the Griswold family competes in a game show called Pig in a Poke, and of course wins an all-expenses-paid trip to Europe. They arrive at a very sloppy London hotel. They have an English rental car and a yellow Austin Maxi, and of course Clark's tendency to drive on the wrong side of the road causes frequent accidents, including knocking over a bicyclist, one Eric Idle, who reappears throughout the film. Later, Clark drives the family around the busy Lambeth Bridge roundabout for hours, unable to maneuver his car out of the chaotic traffic, so they can, get a closer look. Look, kids, Big Ben Parliament, of course, is the classic scene. As Groo may have mentioned earlier at Stonehenge, Clark accidentally, I think it was part of the package, Clark accidentally backs his car into the ancient stone monolith, toppling all the stones over like dominoes, which the family does not even notice as they happily leave the scene. In Paris, the Griswold family wears stenciled berets, causing Rusty to be teased by a very young, pretty woman at the Eiffel Tower observation deck. Clark offers to get rid of the beret for Rusty, and as he tosses it, a dog makes a mad dash over the tower to get the beret.
That's 2 vacation movies and 2 dead dogs.
That's right. That's an interesting point. I didn't think about that.
And the dead
maybe there's an anti-dog. There's an anti-dog bias in these vacation movies.
In the third one, the cat blows up.
That is true too. Maybe PETA should be protesting. Clark is mocked by a French waiter for his terrible French. Later, Clark and Ellen visit a bawdy Paris can dance show, finding Rusty already in there with a prostitute. They visit a West German village. The Griswolds burst into a bewildered elderly couple whom they mistakenly think are relatives, but the couple ends up providing them dinner and lodging anyway, not being able to understand each other's language. And of course, the very classic, lively Bavarian folk dance stage performance, which turns into an all-out street brawl, after which the Griswold family knock over street vendor stands as they get into their car and as they drive through a narrow medieval archway. In Rome, the Griswolds rent a car to travel office, but unbeknownst to them, the men in charge are thieves holding the real manager captive. The lead thief gives them a car with a manager in the trunk, claiming he had lost the trunk keys. Of course, the next day, Ellen is shocked to discover that the private sexy videos that Clark had recorded earlier have been stolen, and now they're part of a billboard advertising porn, leaving her completely humiliated after screaming angrily at Clark, who had told her that he had erased the video. Ellen storms off to the hotel where she encounters the thief who rented them the car. She confesses her recent troubles, but still unaware that he's a criminal. The man tries to get the car keys, which are in her purse, but fails. When the police arrive at the hotel, he kidnaps Ellen, prompting Clark to rescue her. I think that's on the bike, a funny bike scene. And of course, as Groo may have mentioned, on the flight home, Clark Griswold accidentally causes the plane to knock into the Statue of Liberty's torch, knocking it upside down. Blam, blam, blam. There you go, Groo. We discussed briefly the cast. Some interesting notes. We talked about the recasting of Rusty and Audrey.
Yeah.
From what I have, director Amy Heckerling specifically asked for the Griswold children to be recast. Are you aware of that? I found that to be slightly interesting.
That's surprising to me. Did they give a reason?
No, but Amy Heckerling, was she of the Look Who's Talking fame?
Yes, and Johnny Dangerously, Look Who's Talking. Yeah, she had some winners.
Yeah. Okay. Groo, there are some famous landmarks and sites appearing as the Griswold family tours England, France, and West Germany and Italy. London's Tower Bridge, the Lambeth Bridge roundabout, in which Clark drives the car into the inner ring and can't get out of the traffic. Buckingham Palace, Heathrow Airport, Big Ben, Stonehenge, Paris's Left Bank, Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, Notre Dame de Paris Cathedral, and Rome's Colosseum. Of course, we see the Statue of Liberty and Notting Hill. Groo, I've said probably way too much. Before we get to the critical review, let's throw it to our own in-house critic, Andrew Gruthius, National Lampoon's European Vacation. Yes. The floor is yours.
National Lampoon's European Vacation is a bad movie, yet it's really, really funny. It's not well put together. It's not well cast. Really, there are only really two really good performances, and that's Chevy-Chase and Eric Idle. I think Beverly D'Angelo kind of phones it in. They're not likable. Like the new kids are not likable. They're brats. The other kids were not. Anthony Michael Hall and Dana Barron from the first one, they were very likable and very sympathetic. These kids are brats. They don't want to go. They're constantly bitching and moaning. Beverly D'Angelo in the first one was like sort of a frumpy housewife, even though she was absolutely beautiful. Here they're trying to make her into more of a sex pot, and it doesn't really work. But the movie is still really funny. It's like a succession of sketches that some really hit and some don't. Like the opening is really, really stupid. The pig in the poke thing. It's flimsy. It's bad writing. That's how they're going to get to Europe. They're going to win some ridiculous game show. It's really stupid and poorly. It's very cheap. If you look at like the audience shots and look at like you could tell it was like you could shoot that today on an iPhone. But Chevy Chase makes it funny, and the people who play the other family that they beat, that guy was a very famous writer-director named Paul Bartel. So they were able to pull some of these kinds of things together. But the movie is basically a collection of things like that. Stuff that really makes you laugh, but at the end, it's like you're looking at it like, you know. And it is kind of a classic in a way because it is very quotable. And it's just and it is really funny. It's just not a good movie. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I enjoyed hearing your take because I wrote some bullet points on it, and I'm curious to get your reaction to some of my notes.
Okay.
To me, it's almost like there's not even enough material here. They devise these ridiculous dream sequences that take up like 15 minutes of the movie. It's almost like filler. It does nothing to move the movie forward. It does nothing to further
and wait,
the plot.
let me interject here. Only one of them. Wait, you said that I could.
Go ahead.
Let me ask your opinion on this. Of all those dream sequences, okay, the ones with the kids were so stupid. Okay? Stupid. I did laugh at Chevy's The Sound of Music parody. That made me laugh.
Okay.
And I did kind of laugh at the Princess Di and Prince Charles, the royal family, them meeting the royal family. It was stupid, but it made me laugh. Has nothing to do with the plot, you know. But that part was funny. Not necessary, but still good for a laugh. So.
Your thoughts on casting of Rusty and Audrey, the Griswold kids? I mean, I hated the casting here.
Yep.
It absolutely. Dana Barron, who I know did some things as an actress in the 80s, is completely miscast here as Audrey.
No, this is Dana Hill.
I'm sorry, Dana Hill. She's like a helpless girl who's just pining for her boyfriend. William Zabka, which that's fine. William Zabka had that lockdown on that.
She's got an eating disorder.
Yeah, like if you talk about PC, I mean, she's depressed. She overeats in the film. The film sort of mocks her for it, which I didn't even find funny back then. I hated the casting of the Griswold kids. They had Anthony Michael Hall was really the preeminent teen act, and I know we talked about it, but you know, and then about the performances.
Well, wait, because I have a response to what you said. Go ahead.
And
I agree with you. Why couldn't they? And I'd really like to know, because think of Dana Barron from the first one, growing up a little bit and having an eating disorder like that. Seeing her, the original, go from point A to point B like that might have been funny. Seeing Rusty, who was such a nice, go dad, yeah, it's me and you, Pop, growing up into a teenager and becoming a punk who's only interested in girls and being a little pain in the ass. To see those actors go through that change, that might have been really funny. But they just cast two different people, so to us it was two different characters, right? Don't you agree?
Yeah, just the Audrey character is this complete, so dependent on the boyfriend. I don't know.
The movie stops when they're on screen.
Eating disorder, I don't, myself personally, I don't find that funny, although maybe back in the day, I don't know. When I watched it, I just thought the kids, they're just, I hate to even say it if you want to get on a surface level, there's not even like, I hate to say it, but they're just like not even attractive to look at. Like, it's just, I don't know. I just didn't buy into Rusty.
Dana Hill has passed away, so let's be nice.
Stop with your bullshit PC comments. I mean, the only thing to me, if I could finish a thought, was Chevy Chase and the well-placed Eric Idle cameos.
Yeah.
Besides that, I didn't even find it to be that funny. There's a couple of, the whole, they can't get over in the traffic. That's cute. Stonehenge. Just even that last scene where they knock over the Statue of Liberty is so cheaply. It's just cheap laughs.
Yes.
And
the worst.
I didn't.
The worst.
Go ahead.
Sin. What?
Go ahead.
The worst sin is that they try to plug the Griswolds into a plot that's got nothing to do with the Griswolds. They're running from a thief. There's a car chase. What is that? The first movie, the entire movie was about them getting from Chicago to Wally World. This, Europe plays a secondary role. That plot could have happened in Chicago.
Well, I'll give them credit that they tried a little something different. They didn't try to recreate essentially the same movie. So, the Europe thing, obviously. But I agree. First of all, it happens at the final quarter of the movie.
Yeah.
You don't even intersperse it. There's no build up to it. There's no. It's like they threw it in there to sort of get you to the end. Some kind of plot.
Yeah, and there's nothing for Clark. There's nothing for Chevy Chase to do except go and be super dad and save his wife. It's got nothing to do with what the character's all about. The character is about taking these great ideas and completely screwing them up. The whole thief thing, that's got nothing to do with him. So it's like this ending was just tacked on there. How do we end this thing? Well, let's bring in a bad guy. And the ending was god awful. God awful.
Well, we gave our opinion. How was European Vacation critically received? Rotten Tomatoes gave the film a score of 36% based on reviews from 25 critics, with an average score of 4.7 out of 10. The critical consensus reads, European Vacation charts a course through a succession of pretty destinations, but the journey itself lacks the laughs that made the original outing so memorable. Janet Maslin of the New York Times thought positively of the film, stating, while it's very much a retread, it succeeds in following up the first film's humor with more in a similar vein. She adds, the film's best visual humor arrives from the mere juxtaposition of European settings with the funny hats, T-shirts, and soda cans with Griswolds announced their presence. Variety gave the film a negative review, explaining, as the family of characters cartwheel through London, Paris, Italy, and Germany, with the French deliciously taking on the chin for their arrogance and rudeness, director Amy Heckerling gets carried away with the physical humor, while letting her American tourists grow tiresome and predictable. Structurally, the film unfolds like a series of travel brochures, which kind of touch upon sort of our feelings that it's just sort of one skit with no connection,
like a set piece.
with one set piece to another. So, hey, listen, Groo, tough to live up to the first one. We've already laid out how we thought about it, but let's wrap it up. I'll toss it back to you. Any final thoughts on European Vacation?
Yeah, exactly what you said. It's a series of vignettes. It's not really tied together by any real thread. However, there are some huge laughs, and to me, the funniest part of the movie is the one that is based on the fact that Chevy makes a mistake, and that's the visiting of the relatives in Germany. That entire sequence is absolutely hilarious. From when they first go in to the bedpan thing to how the old people are reacting to when they leave. It's like bye, and then in German they say, "Who the fuck were they?" Beats the shit out of me. I mean, that is truly, truly funny, and based on Clark being bumbling. That's the spirit of National Lampoon's Vacation. And they rarely capture it anywhere else in the movie. So it's not a good movie, but it is funny. And and the lack of budget definitely plays a role. You could tell that, like you said, it looks cheap.
Yeah, I don't even find
Stonehenge. Even when the Stonehenge thing comes down, I mean, it looks like a stop motion animation cartoon.
All right, take a breath. Let me interject my point. See, where I differ with you is I don't find the movie to me it has two laugh out loud moments. The Bavarian clog dancing, to me that's Chevy Chase physical humor at his finest.
Okay.
Where it leads into the car chase, I could have done without that. And then of course the Eric Idle cameos, I won't say are laugh out loud, but they definitely put a strong smile on my face because that's sort of clever. And I found it to be ingenious. The where they meet the German supposed relatives, that was funny. I put a smile on my face, but the two laugh out loud moments for me were really only that clog dancing scene with the hitting of the legs, and that was really funny. And the build up, how he gets hit and he kind of brushes it off, but you can see the anger rising, and then he hits the guy. That was very well done. But to me, that's really about it. Otherwise, it's just throwaway set pieces, like you said.
Yeah, but look, there are some great lines. Like one of my favorite lines is when he's on the plane, and the stewardess comes over and says, "Can I get you a drink?" And he's like, "I'll have a Coke." She's like, "Do you want it in a can?" He's like, "No, I have it right here." I mean, that's funny. That's really funny. But that's Chevy Chase. That kind of joke is in just about every Chevy Chase movie. I could, it's in Three Amigos too, for God's sake. But it's really funny. You're laughing.
All right, I'll give you credit. That is a funny line. That is anything in a can is funny to me.
Yeah, but the whole thing with the the wife on the billboard with the camera and the porn. I mean, that was silly. It was just silly. It's like they're saying, how can we create conflict between these two people when in the first one it happened organically? Why was there conflict? Because she was getting fed up of his just insane desire to pull this thing off and not looking at the reality. Here they had to invent it. And that's that's typical of a movie with no budget, no time, and inexperienced screenwriters, I would say.
Well, what I would ask you, or what I would say about the budget piece is, I'm not sure why they didn't kick in. I mean, the first movie was a success, so you've got momentum. You'd think that they would kick in a few more bucks. I like, again, where I give the movie credit is they tried something different. Now, maybe perhaps they go to Europe on a tour where they're interacting with other, passengers and vacationers and bumbling. Yeah. But to me, there's a couple of smiles. There's two laugh out loud moments, and after that, it's just not good.
Yeah, I would say better ending, better cast. It would be twice as good.
All right, Andrew, let's move on. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is a 1989 American comedy film. Groo, it is the third installment in the National Lampoon Vacation film series. It is written by John Hughes, based on his short story in the actual National Lampoon magazine, Christmas 59. The film stars Chevy Chase, Beverly D'Angelo, Randy Quaid, Juliette Lewis, and Johnny Galecki as the Griswold children, Audrey and Rusty. Since its release, Groo, at least my notes say, Christmas Vacation has been often labeled as a more modern Christmas classic. It is the only sequel to have its own direct sequel. We're not going to touch upon this, but in 2003 there was a made-for-TV release titled National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation 2, Cousin Eddie's Island Adventure. I did see the screenshot of it. Christmas Vacation is the last theatrical vacation film to carry the National Lampoon label and to feature a screenwriting credit from Hughes. Any thoughts about that, by the way, that this is the last one to sort of be tied into National Lampoon? Does it make a difference?
I think it certainly does. I think, the National Lampoon's guys, after this, they pretty much headed down the, direct-to-video route, making these, real cheap, pale imitations of the movies they had already made. So it's kind of like, I can't remember the last National Lampoon's movie, maybe Van Wilder, but since then,
maybe.
But yeah, I think after that, everything has been like there are probably 1,000 of them that we don't even know about. So I think they just went. I think maybe the difference was after Doug Kenny died. Maybe the whole National Lampoon thing kind of fizzled out a bit, and as these people got bigger, like Ramis got bigger, Chevy-Chase got bigger. So by 1989, the National Lampoon was not the I don't know what you would call it. I definitely think you'd call it like a centerpiece for comedy in the late 70s, early 80s. But by the late 80s, it was sort of fizzling. So it makes sense.
Anything to do with sort of magazines just being minimized in the modern era with websites and stuff? I mean, nobody goes and buys a magazine really anymore.
Well,
maybe I don't know. That's just
I don't think so, because the National Lampoon moniker was gone before then. Okay. Vegas Vacation came out in '97, and that had nothing to do with National Lampoon. So I would say the two aren't related. I just think as comedy developed, the National Lampoon style. Remember, they're also getting more PC as we're going, and National Lampoon was decidedly un-PC. The first magazine they published had a dog with a Dalmatian with a gun to its head. That was like their first magazine that they published. So I think their brand of humor, Michael O'Donoghue, I think, was involved in that. Their brand of humor was not looked upon as mainstream anymore. Maybe that was it.
You want to give a guess as to the total gross of Christmas Vacation?
Yeah, this one was a hit. I'm gonna say it broke 100 million. I'm gonna say maybe 110 million in the United States.
All right, 110 in the United States.
That's my guess. Yeah.
Did it open at number one? Yes or no?
Do you have the date that it opened?
Yes, it opened. I don't have the date. 1989. I don't have the actual physical date. No.
I don't think it was number one. I think there was something. There was another big tentpole movie that came out that week. That not.
You are correct, sir.
Wait. Let me see. Wait. Let me. I'm trying to think of what it was. No, I can't. I can't think of what it was. But yeah, my guess is 110 million. Opened up at number 2. That's my guess.
Are you done pontificating?
Yes.
Okay, so it opened up at number 2 behind Back to the Future Part 2. Ironically enough.
Yeah.
And it did the following. Let's see. It did hit number 1 on the 3rd week of his release. But Groo, I have the gross at just over 71 million in the U.S.
Wow, I thought it did better than that. It seemed
it was the highest grossing film in the series until the release of Vacation, the reboot in 2015.
That's horrible. That makes me upset.
Well,
are you saying that the reboot of Vacation in 2015 was the most financially successful vacation movie?
Well, I'm not looking specifically at my Vacation reboot 2015 notes, but my notes do tend to say yes.
I guess inflation.
Stop with the Jewish and let's get moving here. All right. Well, speaking of Oy vey, Christmas Vacation, Groo, tells us the tale of the Griswold family. They want to have that great Christmas holiday get-together. Clark gathers his wife Ellen, daughter Audrey, and son Rusty, and drives out to the country to a tree farm. After walking through snow for hours, Clark finds the largest tree that he can. Realizing too late that they did not bring any tools to cut the tree down, they are forced to uproot it before driving home with the tree strapped to the roof of their car. Clark and Ellen's parents arrive to spend Christmas, but the bickering quickly begins to annoy the family. Clark always maintains that positive attitude that he's determined to have a fun, old-fashioned family Christmas. He covers the house exterior with 25,000 twinkle lights, which fail to work at first, as he accidentally wires them through his garage light switch. When they finally come on, they temporarily cause a citywide power shortage and create chaos for Clark's yuppie neighbors, Todd and Margot. While standing on the front lawn admiring the lights, Clark is shocked to see Ellen's redneck cousin, Catherine, and her husband, Eddie, as they arrive unannounced with their children, Rocky, Ruby, Sue, and their Rottweiler dog, Snots.
This year's our pride and joy.
Eddie later admits that they are living in the RV that they arrived in, as he is broke and had been forced to sell his home and acreage. Clark offers to buy gifts for Eddie kids so they can still enjoy Christmas. Soon afterward, Clark's Aunt Bethany and Uncle Lewis arrive as well. Clark begins to wonder why his boss, Frank Shirley, has not gifted him his yearly bonus, which he desperately needs to replace an advance payment that he has made to install a swimming pool at the Griswold home. After a disastrous Christmas Eve dinner, along with Uncle Lewis accidentally burning down the Christmas tree, he finally receives an envelope from a company messenger who had failed to deliver it on the day before. Instead of the presumed bonus, the envelope contains a free year's membership of the Jelly of the Month Club. This prompts Clark to snap and go into a tirade about Frank, which is done out of anger. He says a lot of bad things about his boss. He wants him to be delivered to his house wrapped in a bow. So, of course, Cousin Eddie takes that request literally, drives to Frank's mansion, kidnaps him. Frank admits to having canceled the Christmas bonuses, which Clark chastises him for it. Meanwhile, Frank's wife Helen calls the police, and of course a SWAT team storms the Griswold house, holds everyone at gunpoint. Frank decides not to press charges and explains the situation to his wife and the SWAT leader, who scolds him for his decision to scrap the bonuses, and of course he decides to reinstate them. So Clark gets his bonus plus an additional 20% as compensation. We really know this has got to be fiction. As the family heads out in the distance, Rocky and Ruby Sue believe they see Santa Claus in the distance. Clark tells them it is actually the Christmas star, and that he finally realized what the holiday means to him. Uncle Lewis says the light is coming from the sewage treatment plant, reminding Clark that Eddie had been dumping his sewage into a nearby storm drain. Before Clark can stop him, Uncle Lewis tosses a match used to light a cigar into the drain, triggering an explosion. The explosion sends Santa's sleigh decoration flying into the sky. Aunt Bethany starts singing the Star-Spangled Banner, and everyone joins in as the flaming decoration flies into the distance. The entire family and SWAT team members then celebrate inside the house, while Clark and Ellen happily share a Christmas kiss, and Clark finally stands outside, satisfied that he's had the Christmas that he had always wanted. Actually, feeling emotions reading the summary of the Christmas Vacation. Well, Groo, I'm going to hold off. I said a lot. We'll go over the cast specifically next, but initial thoughts on Christmas Vacation.
It's a strange. The floor is yours. It's strange because it's a really good movie. It really is. It's not hilarious. It's funny. It's consistently funny, but there's nothing I can think of that really makes me like really laugh out loud a lot. But it's consistently funny. The casting is incredible, with the exception of the two kids. They're better than they were in European Vacation, but they're not really part of anything. You know, certainly Johnny Galecki and Juliette Lewis went on to bigger and better things, and they're both game, and they play it more like Anthony Michael Hall and Dana Barron, but they're not really vital to the movie. But the relatives, talk about, you know, casting. You have E.G. Marshall, Diane Ladd, John Randolph, what's her name, Doris Roberts from Everybody Loves Raymond. You have the next door neighbors. I know one was Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I don't know who the guy was, but he was funny, and they were fun. And their issues with the Griswolds was funny. Brian
Nicholas Guest plays Todd Chester. I wonder if he's related to Christopher Guest.
I think he is, and I've heard that name in other places before. So I would say yes, but you see character actors all the time. Even Clark's buddy at work, who's talking to him about the pool, he's a familiar face from a million movies. So they really did a good job casting here. And like I said, and you have what's his name? Aunt Bethany was the original Betty Boop. Mae Questel, I think her name is. You have Uncle Lewis, who was played by William Hickey, who everybody knows him. They don't know his name, but everybody's seen him. So they are loaded here. The problem with this movie, and you're gonna get upset with me for saying this, is that to me it's too much of a departure from what the National Lampoon Vacation movie should be. There's no edge. It's too sweet. It's too nice. Like you said at the end, it's I don't know. It's missing that, defiant edge that even European Vacation had a little of it. This is like a kids movie in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's good. It's just it's hard to compare it to the other vacation movies because it's so different. So that's my thought on it. As a vacation movie, I don't know where to put it. But as a regular movie, in and of itself, it's a really good movie.
Yeah, you've seen this plot before, though, Groo. You've seen the family vacation, Christmas, where all the relatives come over and, they're all crazy and you're sort of dreading it. So actually, I can't disagree with anything you said. I left, I watched it, I had a sweet feeling, almost more like a Hallmark movie than an actual sort of edgy comedy, which at least Vacation was. And I agree with you. Even the European had a little bit to it. I agree with everything that you're saying.
Yeah, and plus it takes some things and it ventures into, and European Vacation did too. It like where everything in the first Vacation was actually like real. Like you could picture all of these things happening. There was nothing out that was so out of this world. European Vacation there was, and here, like with the sled thing where it's going 1,000,000 miles an hour, and then it's a little bit over the top, and that's when you go in that direction, the edge is going to get lost because the edge is based on reality, and when reality is suspended, that edge is gone, and that's what I think this movie suffers from. But taking it away from that, like I said, it's a thoroughly enjoyable and funny experience, without a doubt. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I found it to be more sweet. But I definitely, when I remember seeing it in my youth, leaving the theater being slightly disappointed, enjoying it, but the laugh out loud yucks that I got from the first one, and even a little bit with the second one, wasn't really there.
Yeah, and I was disappointed right away when they didn't open it with Holiday Road. It was like this new theme song, this Christmas theme song. I'm like, even at I was 14 at the time. Even I'm like, oh God, they're really trying to be different. And you know me.
So, Groo, how was Christmas Vacation critically received at the time of the film's release? The film received mixed to positive reviews. However, over time, some have cited it as a Christmas classic. Review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes reports a 66% score of 38 film critics, having given the film a positive review with an average rating of 6.19 out of 10. The site's consensus reads, While Christmas Vacation may not be the most disciplined comedy, it's got enough laughs and good cheer to make for a solid seasonal treat. Variety responded positively to the film, stating, "Solid family fare with plenty of yucks. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is chevy-chase and brood doing what they do best. Despite the title, which links it to previous picks in the Rambling Vacation series, the third entry is firmly rooted at the Griswold family homestead, where Clark Griswold is engaged in a typical overreaching attempt to give his family a perfect old-fashioned Christmas." Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times gave the film 2 out of 4 stars, saying, "The movie is curious in how close it comes to delivering on its material. Sequence after sequence seems to contain all the necessary material to be well on its way towards a payoff, and then somehow it doesn't work." Interesting. Well, Groo, that's Christmas Vacation. I'll throw it to you. Final thoughts on Christmas Vacation?
I agree with almost everything that Ebert just said, except I think it does work as a movie. It's a nice, fun story about a family. It could have been any family, though. That's the thing. So as a vacation movie, it's not great, but as a movie, it does work.
So what are you saying? Is Christmas Vacation not a vacation movie? Are you going to go with that ridiculousness?
Yep. That's why I said That's why I said you'd get upset.
No, don't do that. I don't look. I'm not a snob, but that can't be critically relevant. How could you say that?
It's true. When they stray from look, it's admirable.
Well, Christmas Vacation is a vacation movie that missed its mark. You said admirable, so I'll probably say I think where you're leading to it is they again tried something different.
Yes,
but it failed to deliver, in my estimation, big time yucks. It's a sweet movie. Like, as I said, it could have been on like Lifetime or Hallmark, where it's a little bit of a slapsticky family comedy. But I consider it a vacation movie. It's not outside.
Well, here's the thing, okay? And this will be the last thing I say about it. If you look at a lot of the laughs in the first Vacation, the big laughs all were used to further the plot. Okay? The killing of the dog, okay, was a plot point. Okay? It was the Aunt Edna trajectory. Okay? Here they do things just for the sake of doing things. What does the cat blowing up have to do with anything? Nothing. It's just they play it for laughs, and it is funny. What does the guy throwing his cigar into the thing and the shitter blowing up? That's funny, but it's not part of the point of the movie. It's just it teeters off. It meanders. Okay, it gets laughs in its meandering, but where Vacation was, they said, well, if this doesn't work for the plot, we're not using it. Okay, and they were able to squeeze so many hardcore laughs out of stuff, like even the scene in the beginning. I know we're going backwards, but even the scene in the beginning, how they get the family truckster. That scene is really funny, and it serves the plot of the movie. So that's what good writing is. And the writing here isn't that good, but the cast brings their A game, and they sell it as a good, fun family Christmas movie. And yes, it has become a Christmas classic, and I'll give it that. Like take the movie A Christmas Story. It's not a great movie.
That's a classic.
It is a classic. Is it a really great movie? Like amazing, perfect? Is it?
Yes, I enjoyed it.
I did too, but I don't think of it as like one of my favorite movies ever.
Well,
but it's definitely a Christmas classic.
Well,
absolutely.
Speaking of it, you're starting to meander. Let's stay on point, okay? But
I walked
Christmas Story
right
is a
into
classic.
that one, didn't I?
End of story. Let's keep on moving forward. So we get a break. Let's see here. Christmas Vacation, that was 97. No, excuse me.
That was 89.
Sorry. 89. All right, so we'll fast forward to 1997, and now we have Vegas Vacation, directed by Stephen Kessler. It is the 4th installment in the National Lampoon's Vacation film series. It's written by Elisa Bell, based on a story by Bell and Bob Duxey. It is the first theatrical vacation film not to carry the National Lampoon label or a screenwriting credit from John Hughes. Let's get to it. Clark Griswold works in the food preservative industry. He's invented a long-life food preservative, earning him a large bonus check from Frank Shirley. To celebrate, he announces to his family that he is taking them on vacation. Part of the reason for the trip is that for Clark and Ellen to renew their wedding vows. Excitement wanes, however, grew when Clark announces that they're headed to Las Vegas, of all places. The family sort of has a quizzical response to Vegas, as Vegas is not known for its family-friendly atmosphere. But Clark, tries to sell him on that Vegas has changed. Although Rusty does appear to be more enthusiastic, the Griswolds attend a Siegfried and Roy show. They also visit cousin Eddie, the husband of Ellen's cousin Catherine. Eddie and his family now live in the desert just north of Vegas, what used to be a hydrogen bomb test sites. While on a group tour of the Hoover Dam, led by guard Artie, Clark leaves the group after accidentally creating a leak in the dam's inside walkways. He's forced to climb the scaffolding to the very top of the dam to get out, and his cries for help cannot be heard over roaring water. The next night, they are surprised to find tickets to a Wayne Newton concert have been delivered to their hotel room, along with a dress for Ellen. They go to the concert only to realize that Wayne Newton himself has sent the dress. While singing, he brings up Ellen on stage to sing with him and visits at their table. The next day, the family agrees to an alone day in Vegas, and they're left to their own devices. Clark goes to a casino and becomes addicted to gambling, usually losing to a snide blackjack dealer named Marty, who enjoys Clark's humiliation. Rusty gets a fake ID from a Frank Sinatra lookalike and becomes a winning high roller, taking the pseudonym Nick Papa Giorgio. I think that's exactly Papa Giorgio. Audrey starts hanging out with Eddie's free-spirited and sometimes exotic dancer daughter Vicky and her friends. Ellen spends time with Wayne Newton, who has feelings for her. Clark gambles away the family's $22,000 bank account, which leads a furious Ellen and the kids to desert him. Rusty goes off gambling for cars and wins 4. Audrey goes to a strip club with Vicky and gets a job as a go-go dancer. Eddie, who has money buried in his front yard, tries to come to Clark's rescue in return for everything that the Griswolds have done for him and his family over the year. Clark and Eddie go to a local casino to get their money back, but of course, Clark ends up gambling away Eddie's money too, causing him to reevaluate his bad behavior. Clark realizes he no longer cares about getting his money back, but needs to get his family back. Clark gathers up the family from Vegas. They gamble their last $2 on a game of Keno. They sit next to an elderly man who compliments Clark on his family and hints that he has been lonely all of his life. Out of sympathy, Clark tells the man to consider himself part of the Griswold family for the night. The man happily accepts Clark's offer, and both parties begin the game. At first, the Griswolds are optimistic, but as they realize they have already lost the game, they sit together in silence. Suddenly, the man next to them ecstatically declares that he has won the game. In his burst of joy, the man suddenly begins to slip in and out of consciousness while Ellen sends Rusty for help. He revives the man long enough to whisper a message to Clark before dropping his winning ticket and lapsing one final time. Clark, confused, tells Ellen that the man said take the ticket. When the casino security guards and paramedics arrive, they declare that the man is officially dead. They tell the Griswolds that his name was Mr. Ellis. As Mr. Ellis is carried away, a janitor approaches with a carpet cleaner, heading straight for the winning ticket on the floor. Though it appears Clark is going to allow it to be lost, at the last second he slides the ticket out of the carpet cleaner's path. With their newfound winnings, Clark and Ellen renew their wedding vows. Afterwards, Clark gives Eddie $5,000 to repay for his kindness. And of course, as they leave, they all enter the 4 cars that Rusty won. And off they go. So I've said a lot. I'm going to take a pause for the cause. Groo, I could see by the look on your face, it doesn't look like it's going to be a good one. Thoughts on Vegas, baby? Vegas vacation.
Well, the key to these movies is the glue that always holds it together is chevy-chase. and he doesn't quite get the job done in this one. I think maybe too much time had passed. He seemed to lose the character a little bit. He's different, and it's just it doesn't fly. He's more like in the first one, and I keep going back to the first one because that's the benchmark. In the first one, he's not so much of a stumble bum. He's just an overachieving super dad. But as time goes on, they turn him into a Saturday Night Live style klutz, and that is what he is in this movie. His comedic timing is off for whatever reason. He seems distracted, and there's no chemistry. The chemistry between him and Beverly D'Angelo is gone. His closest relationship in the movie is with Randy Quaid, and those scenes work. Those scenes work, but I think Randy Quaid carries those scenes. He's really good in this. But the kids, again, are different, and we don't even know them. They're strangers to us, so we don't care about them at all. And anytime they're on screen, it's boring. We want to get back to Clark and disaster. Like the stuff between Clark and the blackjack dealer is funny. Why? Because of Wallace Shawn, the guy who played the blackjack dealer. Okay, the Keno scene is funny. Why? Because of Sid Caesar, one of the biggest comedians who ever lived. So it's almost like the Griswolds are being passed from another set piece to set piece. Even Wayne Newton is funnier than Chevy Chase in this movie.
Yes.
And I just don't know. Maybe it was like the failed talk show and like all the stuff. Like the 90s were not good to Chevy Chase, and this was kind of his stab at like a comeback kind of thing, and it just didn't work. That being said, like the others, it's got laughs. It's got laughs. I have to give it that, but it's got no edge. It's actually the first one that was actually rated PG instead of PG-13 and R. The first one was rated R, and this one was basically a kids movie, and disappointing, but it has gotten better over time.
Can you give a critical response? Everything's but. I mean, do you like the movie or don't like them? I can't tell with your review. You're Mr. Nebulous. You love to play the middle.
Because it's difficult. Because there are movies
that's the point of the podcast.
All right, okay. There are movies that I dislike that I never want to watch again. This isn't one of them. I can't say I like the movie, but I can watch it because I do enjoy these characters. I do enjoy You're
not watching this movie again.
I've seen it more than once. I didn't like it when I first saw it, and I've seen it more than once.
So are you saying you like it now?
I'm saying I like watching it. That doesn't make it a good movie. Lord. I'm not. All right.
Andrew
all right.
Cortez,
Okay. All right.
Critic extraordinaire. You can't get a statement of.
Okay.
And then I like to give my thoughts. You keep on meandering. Speaking of meandering, go.
Okay.
Let me hear it.
All right.
Let's go.
I'm gonna be very plain with these four movies here. Vacation, thumbs up. Okay. European Vacation, marginal thumbs down. Very close because I still do enjoy it, but marginal thumbs down. Christmas Vacation, thumbs up, but certainly not as thumbs uppy as the first one. Vegas Vacation, Vegas Vacation, thumbs down, but still watchable. Is that clear? Is that clear enough?
Can I give my thoughts?
It doesn't have to be all black and white. You don't either love it or hate it. Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't say that, but everything's a but. Everything,
Well, yeah, because you try to find good things. You try to find good things.
Shit. Speaking of meandering, Lord. Well, let me give you my thoughts. First of all, your point about Chevy and Beverly D'Angelo, they just look older. They just look different.
She doesn't. She looks younger. Don't you think?
Well, because she's Botoxed out of her mind. But still, they're older. They're almost approaching grandparent territory.
She's got a great body, though. She's got a great body. All
right, can you just let me get my thoughts out?
I'm just great body.
It tries to have the look and the feel of the first movie, but it's uninspired. It has a look of almost like TV movie of the week.
Yes.
It doesn't even look like a like a cinema piece. I liked Rusty and Audrey better this casting than prior movies. I liked the addition of Wayne Newton. I liked Clark and Eddie's scenes. I thought that final gambling run with all the ridiculous games, thought that was cute.
That was fun.
You like the rock, paper, scissors, and guess which hand. That
War.
was that. Hoover Dam bit was a complete waste of time.
Yes.
It was just absolutely a effing waste of time.
I am
Terrible.
your damn guide, and this is your damn tour. Like, you're supposed to laugh at that?
I mean, I get. Look, I wrote some giggles and not much else. Chevy Chase and Randy Quaid stand out. Everyone else is okay. It looks very cheaply done. And then I wrote a mild viewing, but probably won't ever see it again. That's my thoughts on Vegas Vacation.
Yeah.
There's
the biggest laugh of the movie is a line by Chevy Chase when they first get out to. Plus, we forgot to mention that this brings back Christy Brinkley for a brief.
Which was terrible. It
was cute.
Terrible.
It was cute. I
No,
thought.
it wasn't. It's
No?
not. You talk about good writing. I mean, that's.
I didn't say it was good writing, but it was cute.
No, you make your point about good writing. They bring Christy Brinkley back to have her drive by, and now the wrinkle is she's got a baby in the back seat. No.
It made
I'm
me
sorry.
laugh. It made me
It's
laugh.
uninspired.
Okay,
no.
okay.
Yeah, maybe he meets her at the casino. Get something. You could.
Yes, they could have made it a plot point. Yes,
You've got an iconic. I don't know about an iconic character, but that first is an iconic scene with Christy Brinkley, and to just do that, I thought was kind of lazy writing.
Okay, all right. I found it a nice little nostalgia pull, but I do agree with you. They could have done a lot more with it. But the funniest line in the movie to me is when they first go out to see Eddie and his family. And they reintroduce them to cousin Vicky, who, as you said in the first one, was played by Jane Krakowski, who seems to have gotten younger. It's not Jane Krakowski now, but the character seems to have gotten younger. And she's doing, and on the property, she's doing this pole dance. And cousin Eddie's like, "This one's my pride and joy," and then Rusty is standing next to Clark, and Clark goes, very deadpan. He goes, "Don't think unnatural thoughts about your cousin, Russ." Like I laughed.
Yeah.
I laughed a lot at that. That was a callback to the kind of chemistry that he had with his kid in the first one. But other than that, a couple of little yucks here and there. I like the Sinatra impersonator, the way they do the fake ID, and he's like, he's funny. He's like, "In time, the hell with it," like that. Like that made me laugh. Like you said, the war and the guess which hand stuff, that's kind of funny. Down on I forgot.
It was cute. It was a little bit different. It was a little bit different.
Down on Fremont Street in Vegas, that was cute. But yeah, completely missed the mark. And again, the edge. There's no edge. Like that's why when I found out that, how much are we going to talk about the reboot?
I'm ready to talk about it right now.
No, but I mean, do you have extensive? Are we including that in this?
I mean, I love how we're discussing our broadcast.
No, but
broadcast.
well, I'm saying that because when I heard what, when I heard that, when I heard that they were making the new one and what it was supposed to be, Rusty Griswold and Chevy Chase and Beverly D'Angelo were going to be part of it, and it was rated R. I was like, maybe they'll get back to, the edgy kind of humor that made the first one so great. Unfortunately, they went in a completely different direction.
Well, here's my thing. I mean, was there were people demanding to see another vacation movie? I mean, I hear what you're saying. I'm not against it, but I don't. Sometimes you hear on on the internet, you sort of hear, we'd love to see a new Terminator. We'd love to see, you get a feel that there's some fans out there that want another installment. I never got the feeling that there was some kind of demand to see another vacation movie, because ultimately I think what hamstrings the franchise is you got the first one, it sets a very high bar, and the subsequent ones just don't meet the mark, and some really shit the bed. I mean, there's some of them are just really bad.
Yeah, but to speak to your point there, while the world is not clamoring for a new one, if it's a great movie, they will go see it. But it wasn't, and it's not. Same thing with, you mentioned Terminator, same thing. The world was not begging for, especially after Genesis, the world was not begging for a new Terminator. But if it was great, people would have loved it. It wasn't great. So there was really no reason. Same here. You know? They didn't.
Yeah, I think, that's a whole other point. But I think when you talk about franchises and specifically sci-fi action, that where you're able to create a universe and almost a lore, you'll always have some demand. Because even you'll still see on the internet with the last Terminator movie, you know, I don't want to get, but you still see
all right, fine.
You still see people would love another one. Whether it happens, I don't know. You still see people responding on message boards, another Alien, another Star Wars. There seems to be some built in, or there's other avenues. YouTube. I
got a great example. I really have a good example. What I think. I was probably the only one who was excited when they announced that they were doing Rocky Balboa. Okay, everyone was like, that franchise.
I was excited.
Well, most of the stuff out there was like, oh my God, another one. Rocky 5 killed the franchise. It's over. Why are we doing it? And then it comes out, and it's really good, so people went to see it. That's what creates a hit out of those things. Okay, if it was terrible, nobody would have gone to see it. Just like Rocky 5. Rocky 5 was terrible. It did horrible box office. All right, same with Vacation. All right, if the Vacation reboot was fantastic, it would have been a hit. Because it does have that. Because then all the fans of the original will be like, wow, I better check this out. But when they heard it sucked, they were like, all right, screw that, not going. And the ways that the reboot of Vacation could have been good, it's like they took every good idea and just said, well, we're not going to do that. Let's have something disgusting here. And
what if I told you the reboot grossed $104 million on a $31 million budget?
That's a hit based on profit, but a tentpole movie grossing just $100 million is not that much anymore. Okay, but it's still considered successful. But if it was considered really successful, they would have had another sequel to it.
Okay, now since we'll just go right into it. I mean, we don't have to go through the plot, but when I rewatched this, I had a couple of laugh out loud moments, and it surprised myself because I did not and still don't think of it exceptionally highly. I think that the Ed Helms and Christina Applegate casting was a good one to be in simpatico of Clark and Audrey. Ed Helms plays that clueless white dude in his 30s and 40s down pat, and Christina Applegate seems to have a lock on that suburban house mom kind of thing, certainly in the mid-2000s on. But there, I mean, you're looking at me, I don't know, I feel like you're about to
I'm waiting.
But I had some the tri-pie sorority scene, the tubing, the canoeing scene, the kayaking scene, and even that initial scene with Ed Helms as a pilot on that cost conscious when he's talking about to the to Colin Hanks and the family on the front seat. I mean, those. The two kids, the Kevin, he's completely filthy. Standalone moments, I had a lot more laughs in this one than I did in Vegas and certainly European, that's for sure. But that's my thoughts.
Well,
you look disgusted. You look disgusted by me.
Look, the truth is, I think I've only seen it once, and that was in the theater. And I just hated the direction that they went with it. I thought that Ed Helms could have been a perfect son to chevy-chase, to Clark Griswold, but instead he played ridiculously dumb. Like mentally dumb, like not understanding anything, like clueless about his children, clueless about everything, and it seemed like a plot device. Just let's see Ed Helms do the stupidest possible thing here that he could do. And yeah, that stuff was kind of funny with the airline in the beginning, but it's gimmicky. That to me is gimmicky. It's just to show that he's kind of a loser. And I think they could have done that a better way. I think there was no chemistry between him and anybody in that family. The whole thing with the younger son picking on the older son, that could have been really funny if it was in the hands of more capable actors. I think the casting was not good. And then they try to recreate the Cousin Eddie kind of thing with the Helmsworth guy, and his big laugh is that he just walks around in tidy whities with his bulge. Like, to me, that's not funny. It's gratuitous. It's silly. And it's just designed for the filmmakers.
God.
It's
Get
just designed
off
for the
your high
filmmakers to literally reach out of the screen, choke you as an audience member, and say, "This is what you're supposed to laugh at now. So go ahead and laugh." That to me is what that movie is. It's just its lowest common denominator. It's gross out humor. The first Vacation wasn't gross out humor. There might have been a couple little things here and there, but it was based on the characters' reactions to things. This is not that. This is like, that's why I don't like the scene that you're talking about with Christina Applegate. It does nothing for the movie. It's a set piece.
Oh,
it does
I
nothing
don't
for
care.
the movie. Okay, fine.
I laughed my ass off.
Okay, but when if you're asking me did I laugh? Yes. The what I told you off the air was the river rafting scene to me is hilarious. With the suicidal tour guide. It's really funny and well done. But it's got nothing to do with anything. It's funny because of somebody else. And it's just got nothing to do with anything. So again, this is a movie with set pieces. And I think if I were choosing to do this, I wouldn't have done it that differently, but I would have definitely made Chevy-Chase and Beverly D'Angelo more a part of it. Like, I think it could have been funny if the grandparents are taking their grandkids on a vacation with Rusty and his wife. I think they could have been more of a part of it, because their scene wasn't even good, because it's just nostalgia. They serve no purpose other than to hand over the Family Truckster. Which last I saw was completely destroyed. But it's not a good movie. It's not a good movie at all.
I'm not saying it is, but comparative to the other last couple of vacation films, I found myself laughing out loud. I mean, I don't. At least with the rafting scene, they're on a family vacation. It makes sense that they would go on it. And Charlie Day, that scream when he gets the phone call and tosses his cell phone. I mean, that to me, that's funny stuff.
I told you that's my favorite scene, and I find that really funny. But then you have the scenes like he really doesn't know what a rim job is. My 80-year-old father knows what a rim job is. At least I think he does. But
you may want to edit that out. Of the
but all that stuff is just so. What's the word contrived is the word I'm looking for. Absolutely contrived, okay. And that's what. Like, at least, like, Christmas Vacation wasn't contrived. It just wasn't that great. Vegas Vacation wasn't contrived. It just wasn't that funny.
No, Vegas Vacation's, no. Now, if you're telling me at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd watch the Vacation 2015 again just to have some stupid laughs. Okay. I'm not watching Vegas Vacation.
I will give you that.
Probably not watching European. Maybe Christmas.
I would watch all but Vegas Vacation before the.
All right, because you're a nostalgia whore. Anything?
I am not. I mean, I am, but I'm not. But I still need. If I was a nostalgia whore, then I'd be like, "Oh, Chevy Chase is in a vacation movie. It's amazing. It's the greatest thing ever." No, it sucked. But that doesn't mean that it's unwatchable.
Well, maybe you don't like. Well, listen, I'm arguing about something that I'm saying is not a good movie, but I'm saying there are a couple of very funny laughs in this movie, and if I equate it to maybe not on a high level, but it's like a Billy Madison. It's a dumb movie, a lot of gross out stuff. You're not saving the world, but if I wanted a couple of funny laughs, I mean, I found the kids even to be mildly amusing. I hear what you're saying. The little kid's kind of annoying, but there's some funny bits. I mean. upon rewatching it, I wrote upon further review on my notes. There are some laughs here, and I got to be honest with you and the 3 people that listen to this stupid podcast.
Maybe I'll rewatch it again. To me, it's like I'm always thinking about like what they could have done as opposed to what they did do, and I could say that about every sequel. The first one is perfect. I wouldn't change a thing. By the way, did you know the original ending of the first one? That they filmed and did and tested and people hated it?
What was it?
They got to the park. It was closed. So they went to Roy Wally's house and took him hostage. They never actually got to Wally World. And I don't know exactly how it ended, but audiences were like, I remember Harold Ramis talking about it in a documentary. He's like, audiences were like, it's good, but to go through all this shit and have them not get to Wally World, we need them to get to Wally World. So that's why they had to reshoot the ending, and that's why if you looked at it again, the scenes before Wally World, Anthony Michael Hall is about 6 inches shorter than he was in that last scene because they had to go back and reshoot it.
He was older? Yeah,
well, he had like literally reached puberty between the first set of shots and the second set of shots. But, they really tried with that one. And the other ones, I think they were just trying to bank on goodwill from the fans. And to an extent it worked, but to an extent it didn't. But hey, they did what they needed to do with me. I went to see every single one of them in the theater. They got my money. So, they did what they needed to do.
Yeah. Again, I still think to me, you got the first one, and then it falls precipitously off a cliff. And I'll give you Christmas Vacation. It's a quality movie, but it's not in the vein of the Vacation franchise. And I think that's where the franchise suffers. I think that most people don't even... You think about franchise movies, I don't even think Vacation would even come up for a lot of people in the conversation. Even
no, it wouldn't because every sequel was mediocre at best.
Yeah, hence my point. That's what I said.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you like the reboot a little better than I do. But you know what? Based on what you say, I'll rewatch it. Maybe I really didn't like it because it was not what I really wanted it to be. So now that I know what it is, maybe I'll rewatch it and find the laughs that I didn't find there before.
Well, listen, if you take it for what it is, a dumb sort of family gross-out comedy, rated R, which I'm sure can't hurt, yeah, I got to admit, there's a couple of laugh-out-loud moments. That rafting, I do love that. I think the sorority scene's even funnier. Christina Applegate's going to show all these young sorority girls that she's got her mojo from her college and just completely just whoops it. And when the son says, "What is mom doing?" It's for Asperger's. Great line. That was a funny line. I mean,
don't you think? Let me ask you this. See, I would have thought it was funny. What I wanted them to do in that was to have Ed Helms, Rusty, join her, like have these, like almost like the neighbors, like Seth Rogen and whatever it was. But instead of him looking on in horror, like, oh my God, my wife is a lush slut, I would have loved to have seen him get down and dirty with her right there as well.
Well, unlike you, I'm not going to sit there and go, "Oh, lush slut, he said it." I won't do that. But what I will say is, it wasn't. I don't know about nice, but Ed Helms always plays that character, so it was kind of nice to see him be the straight guy, sort of like when you see Steve Martin when he finally played. I just thought it was a little change of pace where Ed Helms doesn't have to be the shticky over the top person. He's watching his wife completely just booted, and then. I mean, I don't know. At the end, when she goes, "Try pie, mother effers," and then pukes in the grass with the beer foam, I thought it was funny. I can't help it. I mean, Groo, listen, I'm not a high and mighty guy. Pee-pee and poopy jokes. Sometimes I know it's
me too.
I know it's not Hemingway, but I laugh every time.
All right, and you know what? You're right, but here's this is.
But I hear you. It's not a good. It's not a good movie.
But this is my problem that I have to deal with, because what you're describing is a funny scene. If it were in American Pie or one of these other movies, it would be hysterical. But what I want from a vacation movie, that's not it. That's the thing.
Well,
you know?
Maybe the movie was hurt by being part of this mythic franchise universe. Maybe there could have been a
That's why
movie in there.
That's why I need to watch it as a completely separate entity. Which is why I would skip right over the Chevy Chase and Beverly D'Angelo part, because it really
I didn't think it added much to the movie at all.
Adds nothing, less than nothing. Those fucking commercials that they did like 7 or 8 years ago when there was like the Griswolds, like it was a Super Bowl. Those were funnier than they are in this movie. They're just there for window dressing. So very disappointing on that front. But I think Chevy was in a bad place at the time. So maybe they wanted him to do more, but if you look at him, I mean, he looks like a train wreck in that movie.
Oh yeah, well it is a little shocking. I mean,
but he has gotten better. He has lost a lot of weight since then. But yeah, that was not good.
Was there enough material there to even, you mentioned, could have there ever been a TV spin, the Griswolds?
I'm still hoping that there are. Actually,
really?
Chevy Chase and Beverly D'Angelo were supposed to do a sitcom, not as Clark and Ellen, I don't think. But they were supposed to do a sitcom, and I think they filmed it, and it just didn't get picked up. But listen, Chevy Chase unfortunately has lost his comedic timing. I think that doesn't mean he can't find it. Maybe it's just because he's given very little to do. Vacation was a brilliantly written movie. Okay, if you think of Chevy Chase's best performances, it's the writing. Fletch, Vacation, even Three Amigos. It's great writing. So a guy can be funny, but without good writing, he's not going to have much to work with. And the writing in that one, in the Vacation reboot, is not good. Doesn't mean it's not funny, but the writing is not good.
Would you say, similar to Phil Collins, Chevy Chase will always be seen as a notch below some of his comedic colleagues of his time?
Yes, and a part of that is because of his reputation as he's very difficult to work with, from what I understand. That's probably got a lot to do with it. And the talk show thing probably set him back a couple of decades. And the fact that he left Saturday Night Live, when he was on top of the world. And, he's had some missteps. So, yes, he's definitely a notch below, like an Eddie Murphy or a Bill Murray. Or he's probably, him and Aykroyd are probably on the same level, I would say. If we're talking about Saturday Night Live comedy stars, Aykroyd had a bunch of leading man roles and has done, more misses than hits, just like Chevy Chase, more misses than hits, but the hits are real hits. So that's but I still love Chevy, and I would still watch him do anything. He was great in Community. Did you ever see Community?
Yes, he was. I have seen a little bit of it. Yeah,
and that's where he really found his comic timing again. So we know he can still kind of do it, but I don't know. It's but the writing for that show was terrific. So the writing has to be good, otherwise it's not going to work.
Let's save those thoughts for our Community podcast, which will be September of 2027. Well, Groo, that is it for the Vacation franchise. And I still feel weird, like it's hard to get a summation of where this franchise will stand, because my whole premise is I don't think really many people consider it a franchise.
Right,
and
it's
I think
5 different movies.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's hurt. That first one was such a darn classic, and I think the rest of them fell short. Each one of them may have some admirable pieces to it, but fell really short of the mark of that first one. And I think probably you're right. Harold Ramis. I mean, it's just the writing, and it's
you know what I compare it to?
top-notch.
I compare it a little bit to Police Academy.
No.
Well, let me tell you why. Because the first Police Academy is a really funny movie. I mean, really funny. It's also rated R. It's also got an edge. It's also it's not afraid of taboos. And as time went on, they got more for the kids, PG, whatever. And yes, after 2, those movies just sucked. Okay? There's no comparison as far as quality to the Vacation movies, but it's the same kind of thing. They try to recreate a thing, but half-assed. And if you're gonna do it, you got to do it right. Like Die Hard made the same mistake when they put out that PG-13 Die Hard movie. What? Die Hard? Oh, let's bring the kids. You know, it's like when they try and do that, they screw it all up.
But there was a level of consistency in some of those films that I don't think the Vacation films.
Well, yes, but that's true. That's definitely true. But
thank you for validating one of my critical points. And the other thing is,
my pleasure.
The Police Academy. I mean, for you to put that anywhere.
No,
you
misunderstood.
First of all, Police Academy. The first one is a rip of Stripes.
Yes,
it's just
I know
different.
that.
But it's done. Gimmick. Listen, I hear what you're saying. They're fun. I'll watch. You know, it's not like I'll turn it off. But on a critical note, no, I'm not putting it anywhere near.
But that wasn't my point. My point is what they did with the movies is the same kind of thing. They struck gold in the beginning, definitely financially. It was a huge hit, okay? And then they followed up taking a little bit of that edge away, so maybe we can get some more younger people into the theater, make a little bit more money. They're going to come anyway because the fans of the first one are still going to come, so they're kind of like, they're half-assing it. And that's what they've done in both of these movie series, in my opinion. They really didn't try very hard after the initial, after the first one in either of them.
Listen, before I need to take a vacation from this vacation, Andrew, that's a wrap on the Vacation franchise. Again, for our 3 fans, that's my mom, your dad, and your brother Steven.
I don't even think my dad knows I do this.
Yeah, I don't think, like my brother, he's like, yo, you did one on Phil Collins? I'm like, thanks for really supporting me, jerk. All right, we got tomorrow, Worst of the Best with Ryan and the guys,
That
Bon
is correct.
Jovi.
That is
And next week, Andrew, in some form or fashion, we're going to have debates on our production calls, but it's time to break it down. Recently, a star turn on Netflix, Uncut Gems. We're going to talk about Adam Sandler and his filmography.
Yeah.
Wow, I don't even like saying that.
Yeah,
That's
we're going to focus. I think
myself.
we're going to focus on his movies, not SNL or anything like that.
Thank you, Andrew. Anything else you want to go over?
Not at this time, no.
Let me throw it to you real briefly. Just some thoughts, Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler frustrates me because I've seen him be so funny and so great, and 9 times out of 10, he phones it in, and he's frustrating because the time when he's great, there's nobody better. But he doesn't try. Like, he's got the best premises in, I don't even know how to say that word. What's the plural of premise?
Premises?
Premises. He's got these great high concept premises that every single time he seems to just go to lowest common denominator movie making, and that's what frustrates me.
Gabble Zeeble. No, isn't that like isn't that all of his character, like Gabble Geeble?
Yes, but when he's not like that, when he's actually trying to tell a story, he's really good. And I'll give you my examples.
You're supposed to do when I throw it to you. You're supposed to just whet the appetite for the listener. Just give a little something. We're already critically breaking it down. Well, let me ask you real quick. Last question. Have you seen? I don't want a review.
No.
Have you seen Uncut Gems?
No, but I'm planning on watching.
Come on. What good are you?
Well, wait a minute. We have. This is not the Adam Sandler
That is true.
podcast.
All right. Well, I thought you would have seen it. It's.
No, I will, because everyone has said it's a really good movie. And actually, I have an interesting tidbit about that movie. Do you want me to wait till the Sandler podcast, or do you want me to share it with you now?
No. Give it to me right now. Let's go.
I found out yesterday. My brother Steven told me because when I was back in the mid 2000s when I was working for Harvey Keitel, he had once had a meeting with Amari Stoudemire, and it was about a movie project. I found out the other day that it was this project. The original characters it was supposed to be Harvey Keitel was going to play the Adam Sandler role, and Amari was going to play, I don't know which role because I haven't seen the movie. I had no idea.
Interesting.
I had no idea.
That's
And
interesting.
my brother says that it would have been better that way. And with everything that I've heard about Sandler in this movie, I'd be surprised, but I'm looking forward to seeing it now.
Well, I'll say this: that's actually for I'm sure when I talk, you're zoning out, and from when you talk, I'm pretty much in La La Land. However, I will say that that's actually very interesting. I'm not going to disagree with Steven. I'll say this: I'm interested. That's an interesting point to mull over this week. I mean, that would have been interesting, Harvey and Amare in those roles. So
well, I'm going to watch it.
I don't want to. Yeah. Watch it and let write some notes and let me think about it. So, or let me curious to hear your thoughts on it. So
So,
all right.
So that's all right. So that's next week. Adam Sandler, the film career of.
All right, we got Worst of the Best tomorrow. Sandler next week. Groo, wanted to let's wrap it up, my friend.
Yes, it's been our pleasure to come to you from these two locations, the Bi-Coastal Podcast, Nothing Worthwhile with Moody and Groo. Next week we'll be back with Adam Sandler. We will send you the link for our podcast tomorrow, the Worst of the Best. We'll make sure that we get all that information to you. And until next time, 1, 2, 3.
Rip 'em. Rocky IV was not a Rocky movie. Whack, whack.